Hi, can you hear me? I changed. Yeah, perfect. I just changed my entire desk and everything, like across the room. So I was just checking because I did not try streaming since. If it's functional. Oh, it's very quiet. Um, how about this? Is that any better? Alright, I'm going to check whether I can. Do I have filters enabled on. No, I don't have any filters. Audio properties. Aha. Is this better? Alright, is there any humming in the background? There shouldn't be because my sound card is indicating it's very quiet and it should be cutting off any background noise, but with the 6 dB amplification from the software. Alright, perfect. I'm not very familiar with OBS audio capabilities. So it's a very basic mixer, so I don't know what codec they're using or what they're using to amplify the sound. But if it's quiet, that's perfect. That's all I'm asking for. Just sorting. Okay. All right. So last time we were left with the tight speakers myth. I reckon. How have I been? I've been okay. Like considering, I've had some health issues due to the heat. Nothing major. I just started having migraines, a lot of migraines, very frequently, and like for 3 to 4 days at a time. And I really did not feel like streaming. I'll just readjust the windows a bit. I'm also going to adjust where the chat is placed, so it's not like being overlaid onto the file outline thing. Yeah, the thing about having only one screen is that you don't know that you absolutely need the second one, and that's absolutely a hyperbole, but you don't know that you absolutely need that second screen as long as you have it, or while you've never had it. I used to think I did not need a second screen while I had only one screen, because like, hey, you look, I can tile windows and I can just alt tab, and then I got a second screen, and then I got only one screen, and that was terrible. Alright, so today I'm going to start this off with some slight reorganization of the document. Or actually, yeah, because this is not in the format I've been using for many other things. I've crafted something else. What can I show that features it? Does that feature it? No, it does not. You have seen nothing of that language. Maybe I'm going to. Maybe I'll stream it at some point. Let's just go with this one. I think this one has it. Yep, it does. So basically, I've been working on modifying a template I've been using for a while, just to fit my needs a bit more. It definitely looks very pretty. It's the Lagrange Orange Book template, which is very, very nice. I just changed all the colors, changed some values, made it so when you don't include a picture before the chapter content, it does not indent the chapter heading by like 8 centimeters. So if you didn't have a picture here, it would still like put a blank space before the title. So the chapter title would be like here and start here, and that was just blank and very ugly because it's made so you have to include a picture before each heading, each chapter heading. And it also was not made to have long numbering. So like here, it would be about here, but it was aligned right. Yeah, it was like here. It was aligned right. So when you had 8 in Roman numerals, it would just overflow on the left of the page. So I just fixed a lot of things. And the use of the mini TUC is, I think, in the original as well. And I'm doing a lot more to that. This is just the structure. And I'm trying to do something like for world building and conlanging in general. So it's going to include packages like all the useful IPA and chart drawing packages. And probably a custom glossing one too. That's a bit more useful to conlangers and not just for linguists. Because XPEX is very, very complete for linguists, but a conlanger does not use even half of that. And yeah, it's based on this one. Le Grand Orange Book. And not Lagrange as I thought it was. And are we doing another reknitting? No, I think it's going to take a bit because I have to format a lot of things, define colors. So I'm just going to do it after the stream, actually. Like, we can just focus on content. But it stems mostly from the fact that this is a part, world building, but it includes a lot of stuff, whereas each part in the language description is its own. It should be like world building, technology, and then a part for the entire language. But instead, no, it's not. Because this has become not a stream about conlanging, but about world building in general, which I think is far more interesting. It's more diverse. So it's interesting to more people. Maybe not more interesting in itself. But yeah, what do you want to work on in the world building and technology parts? Hi, Intermission. Yeah, next stream probably. I'm still undecided. It depends on how much time I get during this week. It's not guaranteed I get much time at all because I have to write two scenarios for 2 different RPGs. And they're very different, so I cannot even like write an outline and just use it for both. I cannot be lazy that way. So yeah, what do you want to work on? If you don't know what, I'm just going to pick. And this is supposed to be a collaborative stream, so if you want that to be a collaboration, you have to speak up. Well, okay, if you don't mind, does anybody have an opinion, or does no one exactly care? Alright, let's go with settlements. And we're going to make them have some government or way to administrate their territory and their lives. Yeah, politics time. Slight politics, like inner workings, not diplomacy. Or very, very light diplomacy, like surface level. But after we've designed a system. So do they have one system that has some variation across the communities? Or does each community, is each community its own system? Can they decide that? Or is there some cultural harmony, homogeneousness? Oh, and I don't know whether you liked my handling of the comments and suggestions as quotes here. So please tell me if you don't want your name on something. Yeah, one system that's most common. We are going to have to define some things to know what system that could be, such as settlement size on average or maximum. I'm thinking a maximum should be about 10,000. And there is a reason for this, because I do have some ideas, but I don't want to push them too hard. Hi, Potato. Yeah, actually, as we have several islands, or groups of islands, we could do one main system per group of islands. So that would give us, I think, 8 or 9 systems. So that could be nice. And even then, we could have some systems be more similar between them. So the question is, which system do we create first? Or do they have some, even if they're not using the same systems, they could have some uh, cultural imperative, something that is core to their culture in general, around which their systems would be somewhat based. Like maybe they value particularly other culture, other people. Um, Mutual aid, for instance. And this is a moment I say they could be anarchists and communists. Well, socialists, because communism is not that. Yeah, they are definitely highly religious, but what role would that religion play? It is important, at least culturally, but is it important morally? Like, does the religion have a moral component beyond respect the sea, respect the spirits, and everything? So, like, would it enforce some framework for thoughts? Like, Christianity has the Bible with ideas in it, with ideology in it, but that's like the ideas in the political and cultural ideas in the Bible are different from just saying, yeah, like you say, we are all children of God Daddy. That like we are all the children of God in the Bible is quite different in nature from saying that you should do something or should not do something. I don't know about religious morals, but I guess the tide speakers would have great political power. Yeah, they would at least be seen as somewhat more wise, somewhat wiser, yeah. Or at least they would know more, if not better. And we could give them an actual role too, not necessarily an official position in the political system, but we could say that the tide speakers are an instrument of communication. Like one tide speaker could speak to the tide and have the tide or the wave, the currents, whatever, and have those tides transport the message to another tide speaker or to all tide speakers at once. So that maybe it could be an actual world building constraint that if a tide speaker wants to communicate from a distance with another tide speaker, they have to communicate with all of them at once because they would all get the message because it belongs to the sea and the sea expresses it all at once. We could have something like that which would prevent like sneak attacks and wars. Well, they wouldn't be envoys because they would not need to move for that. And as such, maybe sending an envoy would be particularly significant because they don't need to, but they do go through the effort. Or they develop some ciphers. Yeah, they could, but it still makes it like a bit obvious. Well, not obvious, but like if there is a message you do not understand, you know it's not intended for you, and therefore you're curious. So you are probably going to wonder why and look to decipher it. That gives like the idea that they have a cipher or ciphers. It kind of puts me off because it would mean, in sort, a constant state of Cold War. You like the incredible destination of information through the sea thing. Um, do we push that? Like, do we remain with that, or do we push it a bit further? For instance, we could have it be random, like according to the currents, like not random, but like they would have to pick the point from which they send it, in order to know where it's going to go. Like you have some kind of humility model that teach you not to get involved in messages not intended. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, starting from the fact that they are humans, they are going to be quite curious. Even if they can hold back and be respectful, it's bound to happen at some point that someone is not going to be respectful of that. Yeah, maybe they could be operating under the premise that if you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing, and thus ciphers would be seen as rude. Culturally speaking, like, it would make more sense that they do not have ciphers, and the day someone does employ one, it's a mess. So it's not seen as rude now because there is no reason to. But the moment someone would do that, it would be considered rude, without it ever having happened before. Like it doesn't need to. Hi, Candice. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to enter that in. Oh, that's communicating between the realms. Um, let's see. I'm going to change that to the tight speakers. And with yeah, with an E it's much better. Is each island seen as a realm? No. I mean, we first divided it into the human and the spirit realm. But yeah, they could be. No, because if they are a realm each, communication is going to be a bit iffy. How are you all doing? I'm doing fine, thank you, Secandus. Like, no, I'm doing fine. Used to have quite the migraines before because of the heat, but now it's cooled down quite a bit. So it's much better. Oh, so seen as... Well, they would be able to determine that it's not different realms because elements of the world would not behave differently in one or the other. So I don't think that's necessary. So yeah, the spirit realm, the father, the tight speakers. I'm going to add this one, subsection, locating between the realms, which introduces the tight speakers. Actually, no, this is also a subsection. And this is going to go here. This can get tossed at the end of this one. The choosings, and here. Oops. Subsection. Between communities, so that we don't have to consider the islands as separate realms. So it's a bit more separated, at least in the description. Actually, I'm going to put that after communication between the RAM. To communicate between among themselves in a similar manner to the above. By the way, I hope that when I'm coughing, it's not destroying your ears. It shouldn't be, but I don't have a limiter on this. Or could I actually have one, though? I don't think I can. Not that way, anyway. Alright, perfect. Damn, the CDN is really getting a lot of members. I actually don't think I know what song that is. And I think I'm happy that way. So that's because I'm able to communicate among themselves in a similar manner to the above. They can do we have the method be quite different? Well, not quite different. It's still similar, like they slip their message into the sea. But do we have it like do we have them speak it just like they do for the spirits, and then the spirits relay it, and it's just a difference in instruction? Or do we have them like write it, or do we have them speak it into a different container, or just shout it into the sea, or just speak underwater? We could have them speak it underwater, and to hear it, you have to be underwater. I'm not sure I want to do variants on something that is common to all of them. It's not something that's cultural, it's something that would work or not. They make elbows with, oh, not in their heads, yeah, with their heads. Oh, driftwood, and yeah, but that if they would either need, mm, yeah, we could do that. However, we sort of decided we sort of decided that the message would go to everyone at once, but I quite like the idea of using driftwood. maybe we could just have the instead of, how do I say it? Instead of the idea of having them write something on driftwood or speak something in a container made of driftwood, they would they would do it once, and instead of that specific piece of driftwood being carried to one place, the seas would instead bring to the shore of all communities at once a piece of driftwood or a shell. Actually, no, I have an idea. They use shells like the type where you bring it to your ear and you can hear the ocean, you know. We could use that actually. Like, we already have the hearing device, we could just make it also a speaking into device. Yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah, every tight speaker has a shell that, as as part of the choosing or after the choosing, they given a shell. We are going to do something with driftwood. That's for sure. It's I think that there are really really nice things to be done with that. And I'm trying not to. Well, I'm thinking of something we could do with driftwood, like using them as wards to protect homes by writing a spell on them, or writing a sort of warding sign. Or but this is not the topic right now. Tie speakers are able to communicate among themselves by using seashells. Which are both the hearing and um, the means to hear and to broadcast, to share a spoken message. Yeah, I'm definitely just going with the seashells thing. I think it's elegant. Do we have something happen when someone is speaking into a shell and all the other shells would do something? Do they sort That's a good question. I would say no, because yeah, I don't have really a justification that's not very subjective and cultural. Yeah, I was thinking of either glowing or emitting a sound. But yeah, two people suggesting glow all at once and no one suggesting a sound. Yeah, we are leaning into more and more magic, but it's low level magic. Not necessarily low level. It can be quite high level actually. I don't mind that. It's just not consciously usable and malleable to humans. That's the main thing I do not want. I don't want people to like do combat with spells. I don't want a combat system in this, essentially. Yeah, or if they are, it's like through a warding spell on a home, or like a pendant that protects them a bit, that makes them a bit more lucky. Things like that. Passive magic. So type speakers are able to communicate among themselves by using seashells. Special seashells or all seashells that are large enough? If we make it all seashells large enough, we should make it so there is a moral and cultural imperative for all people not to do it. Hi, Tonya. A specific seashell. Maybe they can only manipulate water. Well, seeing as... actually, that's a... Maybe they do have some item magic that allows them to repel wind, because the skies are seen as the source of evil. I said only certain shells are involved. Yeah, okay. Oh, a prior tight speaker blessing shells. That's pretty good. Yeah, some specific shells blessed in a ceremony. Use need to have been the seashells. Well, yeah, no. The seashells need to have been blessed by a tied speaker to be used this way. Partly so because they would not need to create more shells as long as they already have enough. So let's say any community only has 10 tight speakers and they don't need more, or just one tight speaker and they don't need two, then they're going to only have one seashell. And that seashell is going to be given to passed down from speaker to speaker. And yeah, once they need another one, they're going to make one. And based around that, we could have some history, not even stories or legends, but actual history, or actual as much as it is world building. But we could have some history where a tight speaker disappeared at sea with their shell, making it so the community did not have a tight speaker or a shell anymore. And another community had to step in and create a shell for them. So that could be some just nice things we could write into the history of the Yalondan people. A specific, yeah. Idea of a part of the ceremony, significant religious figure drinks some spicy water out of the shell. Spicy water being what? Bleach? An acid? Or just seawater? Or something else? If you say urine, I'm banning you. Oh yeah, alcohol makes a lot of sense. Well, makes a lot more sense than my idea of urine, so yeah. Yeah, some sort of alcohol, yeah. What? Getting bait in communities. Epigraph. I don't want to know whether you would ever or not. Do we have everyone be able to use the shells? Technically, but it's just taboo to use it when you're not a tight speaker. Depends on what. But how this? Oh, yeah. Maybe they just have a fancy gurgle with it. Maybe it's just mouthwash. Also known as Jet 27. Only Thai speakers are attuned to the shell and can focus the information, so someone who isn't a Thai speaker would be overwhelmed by the sound of the spirits. Yeah, actually, that makes sense. Like, you have to be in tune with the spirits in general to do that, yeah. I think I'm going to go with a mix of things where it is taboo for other people to use that because, and they don't need to know that, but because it has bad consequences. And maybe only the Thai speakers would actually know that, but no one has done it in like a century, so it's been kind of forgotten. Or maybe it's not understood as a direct consequence, and it's like sort of, hey, you did the taboo thing. The spirits decided that you get fucked, so you become completely mad. Oh, actually, okay, I have an idea. I'm going to write it out. Yeah, if that works for you, I have a very specific idea. I'm going to write it out. To be spoken into. All the other blessed shells will then light up and when put to the ear of someone and when put to the ear of someone they will play the message exactly once. What was spoken? However, if a non-Thai speaker would listen to a shell, no, I would think that they would just like pick it up, put it to their ear. The shell somehow, because magic, knows that, plays a message exactly once, and then there is no more message. It's been heard, job's done. Like you could still just speak into it and say, "Hey, go again. I'm a moron. I did not listen. Oops." Yeah, just explain the system I have in mind. However, if a non-Thai speaker would listen to a shell, their empty mind would echo the words forever and ever, driving them to madness. Yeah, that was my idea. That because they're not tight speakers, they do not have the water spirit in them, and it allows the words to echo and echo and echo. And echo and echo and echo and echo and echo. Hearing play kind of gives me a cosmetic issue. Dum dum da dum. You have a new message. Yeah, I mean that's just waiting for the very young kids of the tide speaker to grab the shell. Yeah, shell phones. Yes. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Just going to space that just a tiny bit because it's a different chapter. All right. So that's pretty good for communication. So now to design our anarchist society. Do we actually want them to be anarchists, or do we give them some form of authorities? Well, authorities that are not decided by consensus and consent, and everything yada yada. I could go on about anarchist theory. I mean, I'd be happy to go on about anarchist theory. Yeah, anyone hearing that in a loop is fucked. All right, so system of government. Let's decide on some sort of basis, or at least the government that is in Canada. So what do we want to do? Um, I'm trying to come up with something that is not. Isn't there some kind of priest class who administrates? Yeah, kind of. I mean, there is a priest class that is already in charge of religion, but that does not mean. It does not mean that they are in charge of politics. They could influence everything without really having a an explicit role. But we have defined them as in charge of the religion. Less populated areas are more anarchists. I mean that's kind of a given. If you have 15 people and three declare themselves in charge, they're going to get as blasted by the other 12. All Yalonda, oh, that's actually a good question. I would say that by default, they are both. Because there wasn't a clean transition to a non hunter gatherer system, even in our societies. So, and even then, hunter gatherers were not without agriculture as a system. They were without the means to provide for the entire population with agriculture only, but the idea of garden culture still existed far before there was agriculture. The idea of having your like small patches of vegetables or fruits. Oh yeah. Would they have nomadic ones? I would say yes, small ones, because it would only be sustainable with, well, small communities. While it's possible to feed thousands of people with just garden agriculture and hunting, it's not doable to do so for one community that would be in one place, not in an efficient way. So there could be small, yeah, small communities of 100, maybe 200 at most, Yalondans. So yeah, there would be non-sedentary ones that could move with the seasons. Well, with the two seasons, which would be quite the same among all islands. So not really, actually. And why haven't they, ethnocultural islanders, become sedentary? Why not? I mean, they they could just never have grown their community beyond a certain point, and perhaps it is partly because of their nomadic lifestyle, and as such, they also never needed to settle. Perhaps the first question to ask is what political decisions would have to be made for in general, or for a specific community, or for us. I mean, everything is politics. That if you are organizing the life of a community in any way, it is political. Some people are going to agree and disagree. So even if your decision is as basic as, hey, let's provide a healer for free with everything they need, that's political. Because why do they get something for free? That's still something that is to be considered. And but in a system where it is um, under the scope of anarchism, it wouldn't make sense because everyone gets everything for free. So, what is a political decision, is going to be determined by the political system, in part. Because something that is a political decision under a capitalist system is not going to be a political decision under an anarchist system. Not always. Is there someone who controls the food, and are they the people who grow the food? Yes, that's for instance something that would be political in any system. Who decides who controls what? For one, how do they reach decisions? That could be a very important question too. Yeah, I would also start with base needs and how they are decided, how any decision is taken in a political system. We don't care about a label for it right now. Let's just, how do they reach decisions about stuff? Does everyone vote? I'm going to take notes. Um, Begin, itemize. Let's go. So some notes. How do they reach decisions? Does everyone vote? Does someone just decide? If it's just someone who decides, or a group who decides, why are they the one to decide? In some communities, elders form a council. Perhaps each family has could have a I can write representative. Yeah. Um, yeah. Maybe some families. Oh, so some families could have more, more of a vote. So like maybe their votes counts for 3, their votes count for 7. Yeah. Uh, weighted voice depending on family size, importance, contribution. Um, with the representative family thing, maybe the region has its own representative and the tide speaker is also the representative. Um, so if your family has a tide speaker in it in the region, yeah, a family having birthed a tide speaker could be considered as more important. Do we want that? My answer would be no, and therefore I would want to have the tide speakers being cut from any family ties. Like they become their own family from that point. They can still gather with their blood family, but they would maybe they would have a moral imperative to find a spouse and start their own family. Important class people and workers have the biggest say in some communities. Yeah, that's based on contribution. So, for instance, if your family has no one with a very important job, maybe if you don't have anyone with an important job in your family just has less of a say. Whereas if your family are old carpenters, smiths, and basically the people who built the village, maybe it could. Maybe it could like have some weight. In some small communities, the religious order or yeah, we could have some communities that decided to give all the power or most of the power to a tide speaker or to one family. We could have that be a de facto thing, or in some places and in other places, they would have chosen it. which is basically the case in any republic nowadays. I would just choose who rules, and it's basically all the same people. And yes, they would probably need to be quite small communities, at least at first, to prevent dissenting opinions from being expressed too much and gathering a following. And then they could just grow upon that and just perpetrate that. Yeah, I'm going to write somewhere in the tide speakers. So, who are the tide speakers? We don't really have something that defines them. Oh, we could write that in the choosings. Um, Actually, we could have that in only in most communities and not all. In most communities, the tide speakers are considered to no longer be a part of their former family, and while they're still allowed and welcome to visit and socialize with them as anyone else, the voting rights rarely do transfer to the family. As such, those are generally encouraged to start their own families. Is this Orange tribe real? It is a tribe that exists, yeah. I'd imagine that would be more common in bigger communities as the decision processes will get slower and slower the bigger the meetings are. Yeah, but the meetings, I mean, the decisions could be slower, but the meeting is still a determinate amount of time. So maybe there could be rules that all decisions have to be reached at the end of the meeting, and if they're not, there could be some social imperative that, maybe people are going to say, hey, they did not reach decisions in time. Maybe they're actually bad leaders. Maybe let's change the leaders. In a small community, everyone knows each other, so they would naturally tend to the sharing of power. I sort of disagree because in a small community, if you have a handful of people who happen to be better at power in general, as in being better leaders, being more inspiring, being more, I'm going to say gifted, even though I absolutely hate that word. Gifted or talented, I hate both words. But yeah, if they have people who are better at power, administrating things, they would get pushed towards managing more stuff. So while it would be shared in that they would all decide to give them more power because they are better with it, in the end, it could spawn somewhat of a dynasty of sorts, or at least it would tend to get prolongated. Like, in my mind, both are equally likely. I just prefer one over the other. Seeing as your family is really important, and maybe family extends beyond blood a little, like clans, maybe the Yalonda naming conventions could have that. They could, yeah, they could. We're probably going to have an entire stream on names and families. But I think that could be nice, like a very nice, nice stream, deciding how they name people and everything. In a small community, there is no official leader or lineage. Power just goes to whoever the community trusts the most. If conflict comes up, and thus the power fluctuates from generation to generation. The thing is, uh, ah, uh, I cannot discuss fictional politics without discussing real world political theory. Yeah. I mean, you probably all know my political leanings by now anyway. But basically, if you. You always need leaders. Like, not leaders, just people who are going to organize stuff. Because you don't want people to do stuff at random. You have no idea what my leanings are. Really? Are they not obvious by now? Uh, Basically, you are always going to want some leaders. How you elect those leaders is going to define the system. Oh, yeah, fair. If you don't pay attention. Uh, Basically, you could elect one person who then chooses everyone else. That's a republic. And it may even be somewhat democratic. Like, everyone could vote for one person, and that person is then democratically elected. But then, that one person chooses everyone else to govern. And that's basically the system we have in France, where we all elect the president, and he chooses the government. Granted, he only chooses the prime minister, who then chooses the government, but then that means that the prime minister who chooses the government is not elected democratically. He's not elected at all. He's just picked by the president. And as such, it's not a very democratic system. Whereas, if you elect a council, like if we were to elect every single minister in France, that would be a sort of council democracy, which is more democratic, but it's also more paperwork and everything. It's more procedures, it's more bureaucracy, which is like the main reason why we don't do that. Which I think is bullshit in the age of internet, but whatever. And so, how you are going to elect the people who make decisions, or not elect them if they take power by force, or if it's a dynasty like kings in Europe and many other places, but in Europe primarily. Like, this is the one example we're probably all familiar with. So this is what is going to determine what kind of system it is, and what the relation of between people and power is. So, for instance, in an anarchist society, they could elect people every so often. So, like every 3 months, you rotate everything. In a republic, you just appoint a few people who then appoint the rest. Well, you elect a few people who then appoint the rest. So there's quite a few options, and it does not need to be purely one system of direct democracy, or completely a republic where you elect only one person who chooses everyone else. Had another idea. The most powerful person is chosen from a select pool by a select pool. who may be a subset of representative 1, and then the power is confirmed by the tide speaker in a ceremony where they ask all the spirits for approval. I like the idea that the tide speakers are the channel for the will of the spirits in choosing whether or not the choice is right. So yeah, I definitely think that we are going to keep that. I'm going to write it down. Does need to ask the spirits that the dead leaders and as this is a bottom down, bottom up, bottom down, yeah, for sure. That's very flat. Bottom up system, it doesn't need to be the same all the way in all communities. We are defining broad strokes, but the common points can be only at one level. For instance, if we decide that the core system is that everyone votes, it can be everyone votes for one person who does everything, or everyone votes every 3 months for a group of people that does everything, or every decision is subject to a vote by everyone. And if we decide that the core system is there is one council, that council could invest power, could just keep it for themselves. They could be elected for 3 months or 3 years or a lifetime. The requirements for election or participation in an election too could vary. We could have a council that is anyone that's voted in. We could have a council where everyone has to be older than 40. Or we could have quotas for people who work with their hands, people who hunt, and so on. Yeah, kind of, yeah. So I like the ideas of sort of a council where decisions have to be reinforced by asking the spirits. Perhaps be considered you need to be nominated by a certain number of people. That's really just adding a layer on you need this many voices to be elected. It just minimizes the size of the initial pool. And like you're not going to be considered at all anyway if you don't have at least some portion of the population behind you. It's quite like the fact I cannot name any party in the French presidential election that did not score at least 1%. Or at least I don't think I can. I would have to check whether they actually had less than 1%. Which I'm going to do right now, so I'm going to tell you whether I can name a party that has less than 1%. How do I see the results? There we go. Nope, I definitely could not have named anyone with less than 1% on the first round. And in fact, I could not name anyone with less than 1.7%. And note that this 1.7% is a two parties alliance. With the Elder Council or other inherent power types, there is a way to lose power, maybe. Yeah, you could be voted down. I would agree with that. Alright, I think we can start with a few paragraphs about the core system. Oh, I may get a call soon because I have a package that's supposed to arrive today. So yeah, I'm going to write a few paragraphs. Just if you disagree with anything I write, or if you want more details about something, just tell me. Oh, actually, just one question. I was going to write that the council is elected regularly, but what if you are elected permanently unless you get voted down? Every year there could be an election where you can add people to the council and take people off the council, and to ensure that there is a rotation, there could be a quota for how many people are allowed in the council at the same time. So, like, if you want to add 5 people to the council and they're already 100, and you don't want more than 100, you would have to vote 5 people down, which would basically force people who are doing a bad job or no job away from the council. So what about that? Yeah, 100 sounds like a lot. It's just an idea, like, just to illustrate. Maybe the actual council is going to be 20. And it would also depend on the size of the community. But in essence, it would function like a minister, like a ministry of something, where every single person in the council would be in charge of some part, like directly in charge of something. Like, I don't know, one would be in charge of, say, where we can build more houses. Like, Minister of Urban Development, or whatever, it's pretentious enough to warrant such a title. And that person would then be responsible for the logistics and applying the decisions that would be voted on by everyone in the council. I think there should be versions. Yeah, how about if you have a son, the day that son reaches 20, they replace you in the council if they want to, as a way to ensure that there is a rotation in the generation that actually have power. You have missed some, I think, some anarchist theory. some wondering about my political leanings, which, if you have read the politics channel in the CDN, it should be absolutely no secret. No, you are not apolitical. Oh, you mean the role? Yeah, but no one is apolitical in real life. Like, no one has no opinion. Even if you don't know which opinion to have, you have an opinion. I guarantee it. You always have an instinctual reaction to anything. Granted, it's perfectly fair not to vote because you don't know, or not to express your opinion because you aren't sure that it's based in reality and actually fits the situation and you have all the facts and everything. But that's a very different discussion from world building. Yeah, that's entirely fair. Not knowing is fine. But the thing is, the moment you learn of something, you have a reaction to it and you have an opinion. You just choose not to express it or not to actively seek out information about it. But yeah, no one is without political opinion, which I think is a good thing. Everyone should be able to have to have any opinion they want. Alright, so the column is common to most Yalondan communities. Consists in a council government comprised of a small proportion the population. Proportion, yes. A proportion is a proper portion. Elements can include how the members of the council and an involvement of the tide speakers. Yeah, that's basically it, yeah. Tonio says, I think people that say they are political are actually non-partisan most of the time. Yeah, that's basically the thing. They don't know who to favor and what to think because they are not sure they have all the information. Or maybe they think their opinion is irrelevant because they would lack experience or anything. There are many, many reasons, and it's not a simple issue that I could clarify on stream, and it's not an issue it's certainly not an issue I'm an expert on. Not that I'm an expert on anything. But yeah, generally there are multiple factors, and people who say they are political are just not sure. They still have an opinion, they're not sure it's valid. What nobody represents me is mostly from people who think there should be one person or one party, one ideology that represents all of their opinions at once, which is rarely the case. I mean, I don't think there is any one person that thinks exactly the same as me, and therefore I wouldn't trust anyone else but me to represent my own political opinions, which is why I used to be politically involved before my health got took a turn for the worse. But like I can align with some other people, some parties, some ideologies on certain issues. And sometimes these issues are quite large and encompass a lot of things. Uh, in a tight speakers, religious order has power system. The local council is also the most powerful people in the religious order, for example. Yeah. Yeah, well, like nobody represents me well enough. Yeah. That's basically what I meant. Yeah. No one can represent you fully, but yeah, you can align with some and want to not vote for anyone who represents enough of your convictions. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Fine and fair at the same time. Fine. In the validation of decisions. The differing elements can include how the members of the council are selected, how votes take place, and who can participate in them. When they held, how long a council member obtain can remain in can sit. Oops. Yeah. Voting also seems to be a core of the system, but the direction and who gets to yeah. There we go. Right, that's pretty good. Do we want to describe one system just for the sake of it? Do you have some basis? Like describe this system, or how do they? I'm going to make that systems of government. Okay, so do they have one central political slash governmental entity that unites every single community? Or most of them, if some choose not to take a part in. Do they have one Yalondan council that gathers like every 10 years or something? Yeah, it doesn't need to have a lot of power. It does not need to gather often. It does not need to have any power. It could just be literally every tribe sends one person, they have a dinner, and then they're done for like the next year, the next 5, the next 10 years. Do they have something? If not, we can just skip this level. I mean, they could not have a lot of power if they. Yeah, actually, that's a good way to limit their power. They could just not gather often. That's for other ideas. I'm going to get rid of that for now. Subsection. Yeah, I'm going to like put that at the beginning of the chapter. I can type an N, yes. So the Pan-Yalondan Festival. Every I want to have them do it like every 3-5 years. years, every community elects one representative who will travel to the island of Kamjo. Wrong order. Like maybe they organize big cultural events. Would they have big cultural events if they do not have a lot of power? Or discuss matters of religious nature but not be able to impose laws or decisions on other communities? Yeah, I think I just want that to be a festival. Actually, if it's a festival, we do not need representatives. No, I'd still want to have them elect one representative each, and that group is going to eat on like a stage or something, just as a symbol of unity of sorts. One thing I do not want is large-scale wars. Not ongoing, at least, in this context. IDI stood for the Welsh Literature Festival. Well, arts festival. That's what it is, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just checked on Wiki. Yeah. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's kind of like this. I just don't want to read the entire article to not get influenced too much. Like, organize big cultural events like the Olympics. Oh, they would basically just... Oh, yeah. They would basically just organize the next festival. Next Pan-Yalondan festival gathering stuff. Oh, the Irish community would be like would like to host a massive... Oh, so it would be purely voluntary. It does not need to be very organized. Oh, yeah, every 5 years they could gather and say, hey, in 2 years' time, we are going to do this. You're welcome. Yeah, it could be a way to compare the... Yeah, actually, that could be like their own Olympics. Yeah. It could be like an arts Olympics. And also sports Olympics or whatever. They could have this very friendly contest. And infidelity. We have not determined their relationships and how they view fidelity. So we don't know that it is infidelity. To dine together on a I'm just going to cut this one. So every 5 years on the island of... No, actually, any community could volunteer for the next year. On the grounds of a volunteer community 5 years prior, decided during the prior iteration of this festival, all the Yalondans are welcome to gather and celebrate. Options include art contests, tree to painting or sculpture. If you don't volunteer and you don't donate resources, be sure to expect unfavorable trade deals and other criminal authorities. I mean, some communities just would not be able to contribute much, or at all, or to even come. So I think this needs to be as friendly as possible, and there is no expectation set. It's just that, well, there are expectations, just not rules about it. But if you don't bring anything, there is no consequence. If you, or actually, very soft consequences in that if you don't bring anything, you cannot host the next one. Or if you don't bring anything, you have to host the next one. But that would not be very practical for small communities. Yeah, I mean, I guess every community could bring food. So I don't think we need to codify it in any way. Like, it's, I think, a normal expectation. Yeah, I don't think I need to write it down. It would be sort of implied from the rest of the culture, I think. Or at least I hope to make a good enough job at that. Maybe the start and the end of the is very codified. Yeah, it could maybe just last 1 week. Starting from. Oh, actually, it could start on the. What's it called? The summer solstice. Day with the longest. The one with the longest day. So that way there is as much festival as possible that's held during the day. This festival starts on the summer solstice so that a as much of the festival as possible can take place in daylight. The celebrations include art contests from poetry to paintings or sculptures. In what type of climate do the basically I don't not tropical. Uh, I don't know. At least temperate. The but like on an island. Uh, I just want to say Hawaii. So they do have storms, but it's sunny a lot of the time. Also, at these council meetings, maybe representatives can work on relations and trade deals. Yeah, of course. Like it's still an occasion to socialize. It's just expected that you're going to be nice and not start shit. Because maybe if you don't respect that, you're going to not be welcome at the next one, or maybe your vote is going to not be counted during any decision that may be reached in an inter-community gathering or anything. You could take this occasion to organize gatherings with communities that are not close to yours normally. Yeah, I still have that in my clipboard. Celebrations include art contests, from poetry to painting to sculpture. Sport events, racing, throwing, dot dot dot. Throwing, wrestling, other disciplines such as fishing, hunting, or plant styling. Yeah, the thing is, the Yalondans would likely not need a defense force, because I don't really want to have them behave like the Greek cities. Basically, 'cause, they already have their Olympic Games where it's a truce, and I don't want them to be at war the rest of the time because they like the Greek cities. Fishing could be very important. Plant styling, you're thinking like bonsai. Yes, I absolutely am, as well as sculpting hedges. Now you have a very dense, small tree, and you can style it into a shape. And by small tree, I don't mean just a bonsai. Fishing could be very important because it could be seen as let us see which community is the most blessed in the cycle. I mean, any contest reflects that. I would think, at least. And yeah, I've made another fishing competitions. Winners in any competition, any festival attendant can participate in any contests, but only once. I love bonsai. Yeah, I kind of like the idea. I do not like the prices. It's extremely expensive to one get bonsai, and two have the tools to care for it, and three it's a lot of time and focus, which I really enjoy focusing on any task. It's just consuming in many ways. And I mean, I understand the prices. It makes sense that something that took this much time to create in the first place is expensive. Maybe there is some sort of spiritual appeasement aspect to this. It is believed that during the festival, spirits disguise people and mingle and enjoy life, maybe. Oh, that could be a nice thing. Uh, oh yeah, making your own bonsai is very time consuming too, like just as much as trying to keep one. And maybe the display of unity, harmony, and enjoyment acts as a word for some against that fucking bud. Um, yeah, I like the idea that spirits may be mingling and just participating in the mortals' activities. The bird, like that fucking bird, is just an idea that is a sort of god opposed to bird daddy. But yeah, it's basically the idea that birds are evil. It's not one bird or one. It's just the idea of birds being opposed to. Yeah, it's not anything that we have actually defined yet. I really need to stop clicking on this channel. I keep clicking on staff chat where there is important stuff going on. And I keep telling myself I don't have time right now, I'm busy. But it's lighting up. Yeah, I think I'm done. Alright, so I'm also playing tech support for Alan at the same time. It's nice. Windows when it counts as Arsin, not Asin. Arsin, I was having the tries blessing with them. Say hi to the mouse for us. Yeah, just screenshotting that. I'm going to send it as a DM and send. Alright, so they are bringing that tries blessing with them. And let's describe the system of Camjo, and it's actually 4 p.m. so I'm probably going to stop the stream here, and I'm going to be streaming again next week, same day, same time. And oh no, actually I could stream for a bit longer next week. I'll actually see whether I can stream for longer. It's very much possible, because the reason I'm stopping now is because my girlfriend is coming back home and I want to spend time with her, but next week she's actually in holidays or vacation or so. Yeah, I could just spend a bit more time streaming because I could spend more time with her in the first place. So yeah, I'll probably do that. Thanks, I will. See you guys, and thank you for watching.